For what is manifestation but the natural expression of consciousness? It is the externalization of an internal state. When you truly understand this principle, you will never again doubt your creative power. Tonight I bring you tidings of great joy. Your manifestation is confirmed. The universe is responding to your assumptions, to the state you have occupied, and everything needed for the fulfillment of your desires now in motion. I speak not of some distant hope or promise for the future. I speak of a principle that operates with mathematical precision in the eternal now. Before they call, I will answer, says Scripture. Your manifestation is already complete in what we might call the fourth dimensional world, and it is now being projected into your three-dimensional experience. Many of you have been faithful in your imaginal acts. You have persisted in the assumption that your desire is fulfilled. You have slept in the consciousness of the wish fulfilled, and now the universe conspires to show you the fruits of your mental labor. This is law, not luck. This is principle, not chance. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Your faith, which is nothing more than your controlled and directed consciousness, has substantiated your desire in the spiritual realm. The evidence is now making its way into your visible world, and this message reaches you at the perfect time to confirm what you already know in the depths of your being. Do you remember the countless nights you spent in faithful prayer? Not the prayer of begging, but the prayer of assumption, feeling yourself into the state of your wish fulfilled. Those moments were not in vain. They were creative acts as tangible in their cognitive power as any physical action in this world. Consider this truth. Whatever you are conscious of being, you must and shall become. This is the true meaning of manifestation. It is not about attracting something foreign to yourself. It is about embodying in consciousness the very state that you desire to express. I am is the self-definition of the absolute. When you declare, I am wealthy, I am healthy, I am loved, you are defining yourself by these states, and the universe must respond accordingly. Many of you have asked for signs. You have looked to the outer world for confirmation of your inner work, and here it is. This message is your sign. The universe has sent you this precise communication to confirm that your manifestation is unfolding according to divine timing. Not a moment too soon, not a second too late. Let me share with you a principle that has transformed countless lives. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled and persist in that assumption despite all evidence to the contrary, you are exercising true faith. And this faith is not blind hope. It is the controlled direction of consciousness, the most powerful force in existence. The outer world may still show you conditions that contradict your desire. Friends and family may question your certainty. Your own senses may argue against your assumption. But I tell you this, the outer world is merely the shadow of past assumptions. It has no power to create or to prevent. It simply reflects. What you are experiencing now is the harvest of seeds planted in the past. But in this very moment, you are planting new seeds through your I am consciousness, and those seeds must bear fruit after their kind. It is law. Tonight I invite you to deepen your awareness of this principle. Feel the relief, the satisfaction, the gratitude that naturally accompanies the fulfillment of desire. For when you genuinely feel these emotions, you are not anticipating future fulfillment. You are acknowledging present possession. This is the secret of manifestation. Some of you may ask, but Wayne, if my desire is already fulfilled in the spiritual realm, why does it not immediately appear in my world? Remember the divine timing of all things. Between the impregnation of consciousness and the manifestation in the outer world, there is a period of gestation. The seed must develop according to its nature. During this period, you must maintain your faith. You must continue to live from the end, occupying the state of fulfillment in your imagination. For imagination is the very substance of reality clothed in the appearance of the outer world. Now let us consider the power of your attention. Whatever you focus upon expands in your experience. If you focus on lack, you perpetuate lack. If you focus on abundance, you perpetuate abundance. This is why I urge you to withdraw your attention from all circumstances that contradict your desire. Give them no power by giving them no thought. The universe responds not to your wishes or your wants, but to your consciousness, to what you accept as true. When you truly accept in the depths of your being, that your desire is fulfilled, all the powers of heaven and earth move to bring about its expression in your world. Many of you have struggled with this concept. You have tried to convince yourselves that you believe while secretly harboring doubts. But true faith is not self-deception. It is the natural response to a spiritual fact clearly perceived. When you truly see in your imagination the reality of your fulfilled desire, doubt becomes impossible. Consider this. When you sit in a chair, do you doubt that it will support you? Of course not. You have complete faith in the chair because your experience has taught you to trust it. In the same way as you practice living from the end and witness the resulting manifestations, your faith in this principle becomes unshakable. Tonight, I bring you confirmation. The universe has guided you to this message as evidence that your inner work is bearing fruit. Your manifestation is unfolding exactly as it should in divine order and perfect timing. Remember the words of Scripture. All things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. The key word here is believing, not hoping, not wishing, but knowing with unwavering certainty. And this certainty comes not from external evidence, but from the clarity of your vision in consciousness. Let me tell you a story from my own experience that illustrates this principle. Many years ago, I desired to travel to Barbados to visit my family, but I had no money for passage and no apparent means of obtaining it. Rather than dwelling on these limiting circumstances, I assumed the feeling of already being in Barbados, surrounded by my loved ones. Each night as I fell asleep, I would imagine the unique sounds of my island home, feel the tropical breeze on my skin, and hear the voices of my family welcoming me. I persisted in this assumption, never wavering in my faith. Within a short time, through a series of events that no human could have orchestrated, I received an unexpected sum of money, exactly the amount needed for my passage. The outer circumstances rearranged themselves to conform to my inner assumption. This was not coincidence, it was law. I tell you this not to impress you, but to impress upon you the absolute certainty of this principle. What you persistently imagine and feel as true must and will externalize itself in your experience. There is no other way. Now, some of you may be thinking of your specific desires: a new home, a loving relationship, financial abundance, perfect health. Whatever your desire may be, the principle remains the same. You must assume the feeling of already being, having, or doing that which you desire. You must live from the end. This requires a fundamental shift in consciousness. Instead of seeing yourself as moving toward your goal, see yourself as having already attained it. Instead of working to achieve your desire, work from the position of its fulfillment. This subtle distinction makes all the difference in the world. When you truly understand this, manifestation ceases to be a mystery and becomes a simple matter of aligning your consciousness with the reality you wish to experience. The universe is not responding to your actions, your words, or even your conscious thoughts. It is responding to your state of being, to what you accept as true in the depths of your soul. Let me address a question that arises in many minds. What about others? Can I manifest changes in another person's behavior? Remember this eternal truth. Everyone in your world is yourself pushed out. What you experience in others is a reflection of your own consciousness. You cannot change another through force of will or through external action. But when you change your conception of another, when you see them in your imagination as you wish them to be, they must conform to this new ideal. Not because you have power over them, but because there's only one consciousness diversified in seemingly separate beings. This is why forgiveness is so crucial to manifestation. When you truly forgive, you are releasing the old conception of a person or situation and creating space for a new expression. Forgiveness is not about condoning behavior. It is about freeing yourself from the bonds of past impressions. I urge you to practice radical forgiveness of others, of circumstances, and most importantly of yourself. For many of you carry the burden of self, condemnation, believing yourselves unworthy of your desires. But I tell you this, worthiness is not a prerequisite for manifestation. The sun shines on the just and the unjust alike. The law of consciousness responds to all without judgment or discrimination. Your desires are not random. They are placed within you by the divine as a blueprint for your expansion and fulfillment. The very fact that you can conceive of a desire is evidence of your capacity to achieve it. For consciousness cannot desire something that it cannot express. Now let us turn our attention to the concept of divine timing. Many of you grow impatient when your manifestation does not appear according to your schedule. But remember, in the realm of spirit, there is no time as you know it. There is only the eternal now in which all possibilities exist simultaneously. What appears as delay in the outer world is often divine timing in the spiritual realm. The seed you have planted in consciousness may require a period of gestation. During this time, unseen forces are at work, arranging circumstances, inspiring actions, guiding individuals, all to bring about the perfect expression of your desire. Trust the process, trust the timing, and most importantly, trust yourself, the God self within you that knows exactly how and when to bring your good to manifestation. I want to address another common obstacle to manifestation, the tendency to dig up the seed to see if it's growing. When you plant a seed in the ground, you don't continuously unearth it to check its progress. You trust that it is developing according to its nature, invisible to your eyes, but absolutely certain in its growth. In the same way, once you have planted the seed of desire in consciousness through your imaginal act, allow it to develop without anxious monitoring. Your role is to water it with continued faith and to protect it from the weeds of doubt and fear. Many of you sabotage your manifestations by constantly checking for evidence. And when that evidence is not immediately apparent, you fall back into the old state of lack or limitation, this vacillation between states, the manifestation of your desire. Choose your state consciously and dwell there faithfully. This is the art of manifestation, not the anxious pursuit of a future goal, but the peaceful occupation of a present reality in consciousness. Tonight, I bring you confirmation that your imaginal work is bearing fruit. The universe has guided you to this message as evidence of your creative power. Your manifestation is unfolding with perfect precision, and this communication is a signpost along the way. Consider the power of your words, which are the outer expression of your consciousness. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, says Scripture. Your declarations, both silent and spoken, shape your reality. So guard your speech, carefully ensuring that it aligns with your desired state, not with the limitations of the current appearance. Instead of saying, I am trying to manifest, say, I have manifested. Instead of saying, I hope it will happen, say, I am grateful that it has happened. Speak from the end, just as you imagine from the end. Let your words reflect not what your eyes show you, but what your imagination knows to be true. This brings us to an important aspect of manifestation, gratitude. Genuine gratitude is not merely saying thank you for something you hope to receive. It is the soul's recognition of already having received. When you give thanks from the depth of your being for your manifested desire, you are affirming its reality and consciousness and thus hastening its appearance in experience. Practice gratitude not as a technique to get something, but as an acknowledgement of something already possessed. This subtle distinction transforms gratitude from a method into a revelation of the truth that all you desire is already yours in consciousness. Now let me address those of you who have been practicing these principles without seeing the results you desire. First, examine your imaginal acts. Are you truly dwelling in the end, or are you subtly reinforcing the current limitations? Are you living from the state of fulfillment, or are you merely visiting it occasionally while maintaining residence in the state of lack? Manifestation requires consistency, not of effort, but of state. It is not the occasional intense imaginal session that brings results, but the habitual occupation of the desired state. Your assumptions to be effective must be more than mental exercises. They must become the core of your being. Many of you may find it challenging to maintain this consistency in the face of contradictory evidence. This is where the power of revision becomes invaluable. At the end of each day, review the events that seem to deny your desired state, and in your imagination, revise them to align with your ideal. If someone spoke words that imply limitation, revise the conversation in your mind to hear them confirming your abundance. If circumstances appear to move away from your goal, reimagine them as stepping stones toward it. This practice of revision prevents the accumulation of contradictory impressions and maintains the integrity of your chosen state. Let me emphasize a truth that many of you have overlooked. The outer world has no power to create or to prevent. It is purely responsive, never positive. Your circumstances do not determine your consciousness. Your consciousness determines your circumstances. Therefore, no matter what appears in your experience today, you have the power to transform it through a simple shift in consciousness. This shift is not a denial of current facts, but a recognition of a higher truth, that facts are merely the shadow of past assumptions and have no power to determine future experience. Many of you have asked about the role of action and manifestation. Should you act to bring about your desire, or should you wait for it to appear? The answer lies in understanding inspired action versus calculated action. When you genuinely occupy the state of your wish fulfilled, you will be moved from within to take certain actions. These actions will not be calculated efforts to achieve your desire, but natural expressions of the state you have assumed. They will feel effortless, joyful, and perfectly aligned with your being. This is inspired action. Action that flows from the state of fulfillment, not action that strives toward it. The distinction is subtle but significant. One comes from abundance, the other from lack. One expresses, the other pursues. Trust the inner prompting that comes from your assumed state and follow it without hesitation. Now let us consider a principle that few truly understand: the identity of imagination and reality. Most people believe that imagination is separate from reality, a kind of mental fantasy distinct from the solid facts of existence. But I tell you this, imagination is reality itself in a different dimension of expression. What you imagine is not less real than what you experience with your senses. It is simply operating on a different level of manifestation. The spiritual precedes and shapes the physical, just as the blueprint precedes and shapes the building. Your imaginal acts are the blueprints of your experience. When you truly grasp this principle, you will no longer suffer the anxiety of waiting for your desire to manifest. You will know that in the act of imagining, you have already received. The outer expression is merely the shadow following the substance of your imagination. The universe has sent you this confirmation because you are ready to elevate your understanding of manifestation from the level of technique to the level of principle. Techniques may be useful as aids to concentration, but it is the principle that produces results, and the principle is simple. Consciousness is the only reality, and what you are conscious of being, you must become. Many of you have divided your consciousness, believing one thing in your imagination while accepting something different as reality. This division must be healed for successful manifestation. There must be a perfect agreement between your inner and outer acceptance, between what you imagine and what you believe to be real. This is why I emphasize living from the end. When you truly live from the state of fulfillment, you do not mentally place your desire in the future. You experience it as present fact here and now. This present tense experience in imagination becomes the bridge of incidents leading to its physical expression. Consider this profound truth. The feeling is the secret, not the intellectual acceptance, not the verbal affirmation, but the feeling. When you can genuinely feel yourself into the state of your wish fulfilled, you have found the secret of manifestation. This feeling is more than emotion. It is the soul's recognition of a state as its own. It is the merging of your being with the desired state until there is no separation, no striving, no becoming, only being. Tonight, as the universe confirms your manifestation, I urge you to deepen this feeling. Let it permeate every aspect of your consciousness until you no longer remember what it was like to desire what you now possess in consciousness. Many of you wonder about the mechanics of manifestation. How exactly does the imaginal act translate into physical experience? While the complete answer transcends human understanding, we can comprehend this much. Consciousness is the substance from which all reality is formed, and imagination is the tool that shapes this substance. When you imagine, you are not creating mental pictures separate from reality. You are creating the very substance of experience in its initial form. This form then passes through various stages of manifestation until it appears as tangible reality. The time lag between the imaginal act and its physical expression is what you perceive as the process of manifestation. But in truth, there is no process, only the translation of a reality from one state of perception to another. The desire is fulfilled the moment you assume the feeling of its fulfillment in imagination. Its appearance in your outer world is merely the final stage of a journey already completed. Now let me address a question that troubles many sincere students of this principle. Why do some desires manifest quickly while others seem to take forever? The answer lies not in the magnitude of the desire, but in your acceptance of its fulfillment. Some states you accept easily without inner conflict or contradiction. These manifest quickly. Others you may consciously affirm while subconsciously denying, creating a division in consciousness that delays manifestation. The key to swift manifestation is wholehearted acceptance, not just with your conscious mind, but with your entire being. When every aspect of your consciousness aligns with your desire, when there is no part of you that questions or doubts its fulfillment, Manifestation becomes instantaneous. This is why I urge you to examine your beliefs, not just your conscious beliefs, but the deeper assumptions that may be operating below the level of awareness. For these subconscious beliefs often exert more influence on your manifestations than your conscious affirmations. How do you uncover these hidden beliefs? By observing your manifestations. Your experience is the perfect mirror of your true beliefs. If your manifestations consistently fall short in a particular area, you can be certain that there is a limiting belief operating in that domain. Once identified, these beliefs can be transformed through the same principle that governs all manifestation, the conscious assumption of the opposite state. If you discover a belief in limitation, assume the feeling of abundance. If you uncover a belief in unworthiness, assume the feeling of deserving. This assumption persisted in will revise the subconscious programming and remove the block to manifestation. The universe has sent you this confirmation because you are ready to clear these hidden obstacles. You are prepared to align your entire being with your desire, creating the perfect conditions for manifestation. Let me now address the relationship between desire and detachment, which confuses many students of manifestation. You are told to desire fervently, yet detach from the outcome. How is this possible? The answer lies in understanding the true nature of detachment. Detachment is not indifference to your desire. It is not pretending not to care. It is the profound recognition that your desire is already fulfilled in consciousness, and therefore there is nothing to be anxious about, nothing to strive for, nothing to worry over. It is the peace that comes from knowing the end is secure. True detachment comes naturally when you live from the end. When you genuinely feel that you already have what you desire, the desperate craving for it dissolves. You are detached not from the desire itself, but from the sense of lack that typically accompanies unfulfilled desire. This is the paradox manifestation. The more completely feel the fulfillment of your desire and imagination, the more detached you become from its absence in the outer world. And this very detachment accelerates its manifestation. The universe confirms your manifestation tonight because you have reached or are approaching this state of fulfilled detachment. You are learning to rest in the consciousness of completion, even as you wait for its expression in experience. Now let us explore an aspect of manifestation that is often overlooked: the role of your self-concept. Your self-concept is the collection of beliefs you hold about yourself, your identity, your worth, your capabilities. It determines not only what you can manifest, but what you will allow yourself to manifest. Many of you create specific manifestations that align with your desire only to sabotage them because they conflict with your deeper self-concept. If you see yourself as undeserving, no technique of manifestation will override this core belief. The manifestation may appear briefly, but it will not persist unless it aligns with who you believe yourself to be. This is why the most powerful manifestation work begins with the transformation of the self-concept. Before you can consistently manifest specific desires, you must manifest the self who naturally possesses those desires. You must revise your identity to match your aspirations. How do you revise your self-concept? Through the same principle that governs all manifestation, the conscious assumption of the state. You must assume the feeling of being the person who naturally experiences your desired reality. You must live from the identity that aligns with your aspirations. This work on the self-concept explains why some manifestations seem to require more time and persistence than others. When a desire aligns with your existing self-concept, it manifests easily. When it requires a profound shift in identity, the manifestation unfolds through a series of transformations, each building upon the last until the new self-concept is fully established. The universe has sent you this confirmation because you are ready to embrace a higher self-concept. You are prepared to release the limitations of the past and to assume the identity that naturally attracts your desires. Consider the words of Scripture. Put off the old man and put on the new man. This is not merely moral instruction. It is a practical guide to manifestation. The old man is your previous self-concept with all its limitations and contradictions. The new man is the self who naturally embodies your desires as you consistently embody this new self in imagination. The outer expression must follow. This brings us to another essential aspect of manifestation: persistence. Many of you practice these principles sporadically, assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled for a brief time, then returning to the old state of consciousness. This vacillation creates mixed results, manifestations that come and go, reflecting the inconsistency of your state. Persistence does not mean effort or strain. It means maintaining your chosen state regardless of appearances until it becomes your dwelling place. It means refusing to be moved by contradictory evidence, knowing that the outer must eventually conform to the inner. How long must you persist until your assumption hardens into fact? For some desires, this may occur quickly. For others, especially those that require significant revision of your self-concept, it may require more time, but the principle is certain. What you persistently assume must externalize itself in your experience. The universe confirms your manifestation because it recognizes your growing capacity for persistence. You are learning to maintain your chosen state with increasing faithfulness, creating the perfect conditions for manifestation. Now, let me address a question that arises for many sincere students. What about the desires of others? What if my manifestation conflicts with someone else's? This question reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of consciousness and reality. In truth, there is only one consciousness appearing as many. Your manifestation cannot conflict with another's because at the deepest level there is no other. What appears as conflict is merely the outworking of different states of consciousness within the one mind. When you truly understand this principle, you realize that manifestation is not about imposing your will upon a separate reality. It is about aligning your individual expression of consciousness with the universal harmony. When your desire arises from this alignment, it naturally benefits all, and no conflict is possible. This is why I emphasize that true desire comes from the depths of your being, not from the superficial ego. The desires that are placed within you by the divine are always in harmony with the good of all because they arise from the one consciousness that embraces all. The universe confirms your manifestation because it recognizes the purity of your desire. As you move beyond ego-based, wanting to soul-inspired, desiring your manifestations, increasingly express the divine harmony that benefits all. Let me now address the role of surrender in manifestation, which seems paradoxical to many. You are told to assume control of your reality through conscious imagination, yet also to surrender to the divine will. How can you do both? The answer lies in understanding the true nature of surrender. Surrender is not the abdication of your creative power. It is not passive acceptance of whatever comes. It is the recognition that your individual consciousness is one with the divine consciousness, and that your true desires arise from this oneness. When you surrender in the context of manifestation, you are releasing your attachment to the how and the when, while maintaining absolute faith in the what. You are acknowledging that the wisdom of the universe may bring about your manifestation in ways that transcend your limit. Conscension. This surrender actually accelerates manifestation because it removes the tension and anxiety that often block the natural expression of your desire. It creates space for infinite intelligence to arrange the perfect conditions for your good to appear. The universe confirms your manifestation because it recognizes your growing capacity for this higher form of surrender. Not the surrender of powerlessness, but the surrender of trust and faith. As we approach the conclusion of this message, I want to emphasize truth that will transform your understanding of manifestation. Your outer world is not random or accidental. It is not determined by forces beyond your control. It is the precise externalization of your consciousness reflecting with perfect accuracy the states you have occupied and the assumptions you have embodied. This means that nothing in your experience is exempt from the law of consciousness. Nothing is outside your sphere of influence. Everything from your intimate relationships to your financial circumstances, from your physical health to your spiritual understanding, is subject to transformation through the conscious direction of your emanation. When you truly comprehend this principle, you cease to be a victim of circumstances and become the conscious creator of your reality. You no longer react to conditions, you generate them. You no longer wait for change. You initiate it through the deliberate revision of your assumptions. The universe confirms your manifestation because it recognizes your readiness to accept this level of responsibility for your experience. You are prepared to acknowledge that your life is the perfect reflection of your consciousness and to use this knowledge not for self-condemnation but for creative transformation. Tonight I invite you to accept this confirmation from the universe. Embrace the truth that your manifestation is unfolding with perfect precision, guided by the wisdom of your divine self. Trust the process even when the outer evidence suggests delay or failure. Know that the seed you have planted in consciousness must bear fruit after its kind. And remember this eternal principle: the feeling is the secret. Not the intellectual understanding, not the verbal affirmation, but the feeling of already being what you desire to be, of already having what you desire to have, of already experiencing what you desire to experience. As you integrate this principle into your being, as you make it the foundation of your daily practice, you will witness the miraculous unfoldment of your desires in ways that transcend your expectations. For the wisdom that guides manifestation exceeds human understanding, arranging circumstances and inspiring actions with a precision that no human mind could conceive. The universe has sent you this confirmation because you stand at the threshold of a new understanding, a deeper application of the principle of conscious creation. You are ready to move beyond technique to embodiment, beyond periodic practice to consistent assumption. Go forth in the certainty that your manifestation is confirmed. Live from the state of fulfillment, regardless of appearances. Maintain your faith not as effort, but as the natural response to a truth clearly perceived. And watch as the outer world reshapes itself to match the inner reality you have established in consciousness. For this is the promise and the principle: what you are conscious of being, you must and shall become. It is law, not luck. It is principle, not chance, and it operates with mathematical precision in the life of a Oneian who applies it with understanding and faith. The universe confirms your manifestation. Accept this confirmation not as future promise, but as present fact. For in the reality of consciousness, where all manifestation begins, your desire is already fulfilled. Its appearance in time and space is merely the final stage of a journey already completed in the eternal. That power that created and sustains all things is not outside of you, it is within you. It is your consciousness, your awareness of being. The universe cannot say no to you because the universe is not separate from you. You are the universe expressing itself as a human being, having a temporary human experience. Tonight I want to share with you the secret of effective prayer. Prayer is not begging or beseeching an external deity. Prayer is the art of assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. When you know how to ask properly, there is no power that can say no to your request. Let me share with you a passage from Scripture that reveals this truth. In the book of Mark 1124, we read, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." The secret lies in these words. Believe that you have received it. You must first assume the feeling of already having what you desire before it can manifest in your world. Most people are constantly asking from a state of lack and wondering why their prayers go unanswered. They pray and affirm, but remain in the same state of consciousness that does not have what they are seeking. This is the fundamental error. To ask in such a way that the universe cannot say no. You must ask from the state of fulfillment, not from the state of desire. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret and the art of successful prayer. Let me illustrate this principle with a simple example. If you desire financial abundance, do not pray by saying, "God, please give me more money," or "Universe, I need financial freedom." This is asking from lack, and your very prayer is a confession of your current state of poverty. Instead, you must assume the feeling of already being financially abundant. How would you feel if you were already financially free? What thoughts would occupy your mind? How would you carry yourself? What conversations would you have when you assume the feeling of financial abundance? When you sleep in the assumption that you are now financially free, you are asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. For the universe can only reflect back to you your own conception of yourself. Remember the words of the prophet Isaiah, "Before they call, I will answer." This is a profound psychological and spiritual truth. Before you call, before you ask, the answer is already prepared. Your assumption, your state of consciousness, determines what you will call for and consequently what will be answered. I recall a gentleman who attended one of my lectures in New York. He approached me afterward and said, "Mr. Godard, I have been praying for a promotion in my company for 3 years with no results." I asked him, "How do you pray?" He described a process of visualization where he would see himself being congratulated, receiving a new title and a higher salary. But I asked, "What is the feeling you embody after this visualization?" He confessed that he returned to feeling frustrated that it hadn't happened yet. I told him, "You are undoing your prayer with your subsequent feeling state. You must not only visualize the end result, but also sleep in the conviction that it is done." I suggested that he assume the feeling of already having received the promotion before going to sleep each night. Within 2 weeks, he received not just a promotion, but a position 2 levels higher than he had initially sought. This is the law, and it never fails. But you must understand that your conscious assumption, though false to your senses if persisted in, will harden into fact. The time it takes for your assumption to become fact depends on the naturalness of the feeling. How deeply are embracing the new state. Now there is another aspect to asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, and that is detachment. Many of you have heard of the importance of detachment in manifestation, but detachment is often misunderstood. Detachment does not mean not caring about your desire. It means complete faith that it is already yours in the spiritual realm and must by law materialize in the physical realm. True detachment comes from the conviction that what you have assumed in consciousness is already a fact in the spiritual realm, which is the realm of causation. The physical realm is merely the realm of effects. Cause always precedes effect. Your consciousness is the cause. Your world is the effect. Let me share with you another example to illustrate this principle. A young woman came to me in despair over her marriage. Her husband had left her for another woman, and all logical evidence suggested that the marriage was over. I asked her if she truly wanted her husband back, and she confirmed with tears in her eyes that she did. I told her, "Your task is simple but not easy. You must assume that your husband has returned and that your marriage is more harmonious than ever before. You must live from the end. When you go to sleep at night, feel the joy and gratitude of having your husband back. Feel his presence beside you in bed. Hear his voice expressing his love for you. Feel the wedding ring on your finger. Do this with conviction, and the universe cannot say no." She practiced this faithfully for 3 weeks. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, unexpectedly, her husband called. They met for coffee, which led to dinner, and within a month, he had moved back home. But here's the interesting part. He told her that during those 3 weeks, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He felt inexplicably drawn back to her, despite his logical mind telling him to stay away. This is how the law works. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are exercising the divine power within you, which is your imagination, and your imagination, sustained with conviction, will externalize itself in your physical reality. I want to emphasize that this is not mere positive thinking or wishful thinking. This is the application of an immutable spiritual law. The Bible calls it faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is the feeling of possession of the things desired. Faith is coming from a state of knowing, not hoping or wishing. Now let us delve deeper into the mechanics of this process. How exactly do you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled? It begins with a decision. You must decide what you want to be, to have, or to experience. Be specific. Be clear. Then you must construct a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of your desire. For instance, if you desire a new home, create a scene where a friend is congratulating you on your beautiful new home. Feel their handshake or embrace. Hear their voice. Smell the freshness of your new space. Feel the emotion of pride and gratitude for having your new home. This scene, if constructed with sensory vividness and emotional intensity, and if persisted in until it takes on the tone of reality, will materialize in your physical world. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, because you are not asking in the traditional sense at all. You are claiming, you are appropriating, you are assuming, you are exercising your divine right as a creator made in the image of God. I must stress that this principle applies to every area of your life: health, wealth, relationships, career, spiritual growth, and more. There is no limit to what you can achieve through the proper application of your imagination. Consider the case of physical healing. If you are experiencing illness or physical discomfort, the conventional approach is to focus on the problem, to fight against it, to see it as an enemy to be conquered. But this keeps you locked in the consciousness of illness. Instead, assume the feeling of being perfectly healthy. Feel the energy coursing through your body. Feel the joy of pain-free movement. Feel the gratitude for your robust health. This feeling state persisted in will manifest as physical well-being. I recall a woman who had been diagnosed with a chronic condition that doctors said was incurable. She came to me in desperation, having exhausted all medical options. I taught her this principle of assuming the feeling of her wish fulfilled. I instructed her to go to sleep each night in the assumption of perfect health, to feel the joy and gratitude of being completely healed. Within 3 months, she returned to her doctor for a checkup, and to the doctor's astonishment, there was no trace of the condition. The doctor called it a spontaneous remission, a medical miracle, but it was no miracle in the sense of a violation of natural law. It was the perfect operation of the law of assumption. She had changed her concept of herself, and her body reflected that new concept. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Wayne, what about the time gap? What about the waiting period between my assumption and its manifestation in the physical world? This is where most people falter. They cannot sustain the faith through the interval of time. They begin to doubt, to question, to look for results, and in doing so, they revert to the old state of consciousness, the state of lack. The key is to understand that time is merely a psychological construct, a measurement of the interval between events. In the realm of spirit, in the realm of consciousness, there is no time. Your desire is already fulfilled the moment you assume the feeling of its fulfillment. The time it takes to materialize in the physical realm is determined by various factors, including the naturalness of the state to you and the degree to which you persist in the new state. Do not be concerned with the how. The universe, God, your own wonderful human imagination will take care of the how. Your job is to remain faithful to the end, to the state of fulfillment. As you do this, the bridge of incidents will form naturally to lead you to the physical realization of your desire. Let me give you another example to illustrate this point. A man desired to travel to a foreign country but lacked the financial means to do so. Instead of focusing on the lack of money, he began to assume the feeling of already being in that country. Each night before sleep, he would imagine smelling the distinct aromas of that country's cuisine, hearing the local language being spoken, seeing the famous landmarks, and feeling the unique texture of the local fabrics. He persisted in this assumption for several weeks. Then, out of the blue, he received a call from a company that was expanding into that very country. They had seen his resume online and wanted to interview him for a position that would require him to relocate there. Not only would they cover his travel expenses, but they would also provide a salary that far exceeded what he was currently earning. Was this a coincidence? There are no coincidences in a universe governed by law. It was the perfect externalization of his internal state. He had asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. I must also address a question that often arises. What about the desires of others? What if my desire conflicts with someone else's? This stems from a misunderstanding of the nature of consciousness. Consciousness is one, although it appears to be many. There is only one God, one imagination expressing itself through countless human forms. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you are not imposing your will on another. You are simply attracting to yourself to circumstances, people, and events that match your state of consciousness. Everyone is you pushed out. The world is yourself pushed out. What you see in others is a reflection of your own consciousness. If you want to change your world, change your concept of yourself. As within, so without. This is the ancient Hermetic principle, and it is as true today as it was thousands of years ago. Now I want to share with you a technique that I have found particularly effective in assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is the technique of revision. Revision is the art of mentally rewriting a past event to align with your desired outcome. By revising the past, you are actually recreating your future, because the future is a projection of your past beliefs and assumptions. For example, if you had a disagreement with a colleague at work, instead of carrying the negative energy of that encounter, revise it in your imagination. See the conversation going harmoniously. Feel the mutual respect and understanding. Hear the words of agreement and cooperation. By revising the past event, you are changing your state of consciousness and consequently your future interactions with that person. Revision can be applied to any past event that continues to affect your present state of consciousness negative. By mentally rewriting these events, you are asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. Another powerful technique is the use of affirmative prayer, or what I call imaginative assertion. Unlike traditional prayer, which often takes the form of petition or supplication, affirmative prayer is the declaration of what is already true in spirit. It is claiming what is already yours by divine right. For instance, instead of saying, "God, please heal my body," say with conviction, "I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy." Feel the truth of these words. Embody them. Let them permeate your consciousness until they become your dominant state. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, because you are not asking from a place of lack or need. You are affirming the truth of your being, the truth of who you really are. I want to emphasize that the techniques that visualization, revision, affirmative prayer, or any other are merely aids to help you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The techniques themselves are not the power. The power is in your consciousness, in your ability to assume and persist in a state. Let me share with you a personal experience that illustrates this principle. Many years ago, I desired to travel to Barbados to visit my family, but I lacked the funds to make the journey. Instead of dwelling on my lack of resources, I began to assume the feeling of already being in Barbados. Each night before sleep, I would imagine lying in my familiar bed in my family home in Barbados. I would hear the distinct sound of the palm trees rustling in the Caribbean breeze. I would smell the salt air and feel the warmth of the tropical climate. I persisted in this assumption for several weeks, falling asleep each night in the feeling of already being in Barbados. Then one day I received a letter from my brother in Barbados. Inside the letter was a ticket for passage to Barbados, a gift from my family. The law had worked perfectly. My internal assumption had externalized itself. This is the law, and it never fails. But you must apply it correctly. You must ask from the state of having, not from the state of wanting. You must embody the consciousness of already being what you want to be, already having what you want to have, already experiencing what you want to experience. Now, I want to address a common misconception. Many people believe that they must get rid of all negative thoughts to manifest their desires. This is not true. Thoughts and of themselves do not create reality. It is the feeling, the emotional state, the consciousness that creates reality. You will always have passing thoughts, both positive and negative. The key is not to identify the negative thoughts, not to dwell in them, not to make them your home. Instead, choose deliberately the state you wish to occupy and persist in it despite any contrary thoughts or appearances. This brings me to another important principle, the principle of attention. Whatever you focus your attention on, you energize and manifest in your life. Your attention is like a spotlight. Whatever it illuminates becomes your reality. Therefore, be selective with your attention. Direct it consciously toward what you want, not toward what you do not want. If you want health, do not give your attention to illness. If you want wealth, do not give your attention to poverty. If you want harmonious relationships, do not give your attention to conflict. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. I once worked a businessman who was facing financial ruin. His company was on the verge of bankruptcy, and all external evidence pointed to an inevitable collapse. I taught him the principle of attention. I told him, do not give life to the bankruptcy by dwelling on it, by talking about it, by feeling the despair of it. Instead, direct your attention to the state of financial prosperity. I instructed him to create a mental scene that implied the financial turnaround of his company. In his imagination, he crafted a scene where his accountant was showing him balance sheets indicating substantial profits. He felt the relief, the joy, the gratitude of this turnaround. He persisted in this mental exercise for several weeks. During this time, an opportunity presented itself that he would have missed had he been focused on bankruptcy. This opportunity led to a partnership that not only saved his company but propelled it to new heights of success. This is the law in operation. By directing his attention to the desired state, by dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, he asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. I want to underscore that this principle is not about ignoring reality or living in denial. It is about understanding the true nature of reality. The external world is a shadow reflection of internal states. By changing your internal state, you inevitably change the external reflection. Think of it this way. If you are looking at your reflection in a mirror and you do not like what you see, it would be futile to try to change the reflection directly. You must change what is being reflected yourself. Similarly, if you do not like what you see in your world, you must change your concept of yourself, your state of consciousness. This brings me to another crucial aspect of asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no, self-concept. Your self-concept, your idea of who you are, is the foundation of all your manifestations. Everything you experience is a reflection of your concept of yourself. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will manifest experiences that confirm this unworthiness. If you see yourself as a victim, you will manifest experiences of victimization. If you see yourself as powerful, loved, and abundant, you will manifest experiences that confirm these qualities. Therefore, the most fundamental change you can make is to change your concept of yourself. Assume the feeling of being the person you want to be. Live from that assumption. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. I recall a young actor who came to me discouraged by his lack of success in the film industry. Despite his talent and dedication, he had been unable to secure significant roles. When I inquired about his self-concept, he revealed that he saw himself as a struggling actor, always on the periphery of success. I told him, that is your problem. You are assuming the state of struggle, and the universe is faithfully reflecting back to you that state. You must change your concept of yourself. You must see yourself as a successful actor in demand for major roles. I guided him in constructing a scene that implied his success in the industry. In his imagination, he would read reviews praising his performance in a major film. He would feel the satisfaction, the pride, the fulfillment of being recognized for his talent. He persisted in this new self-concept for several months. And then, as if by magic, though it was not magic but law, he was called to audition for a significant role in a major production. He secured the role, and his performance was indeed praised by critics, just as he had imagined. This is the law. By changing his concept of himself, he changed his reality. He asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. Now, I want to address a question that often arises. What about collective events or global conditions? Can my individual consciousness affect these? The answer is yes, but with a caveat. Your experience of the collective is still your individual experience. You can only experience what matches your state of consciousness. For instance, in times of economic downturn, some people experience hardship and lack, while others experience opportunity and abundance. Same external condition, different individual experiences because of different states of consciousness. Therefore, do not be concerned with changing the world. Be concerned with changing yourself, your concept of yourself. As you do this, your experience of the world will change. And as more individuals do this, the collective experience changes as well. I want to emphasize that this principle is not selfish or self-centered in a negative sense. It is simply a recognition of the law of consciousness. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot project what you do not possess within yourself. By focusing on your own state of consciousness, you are actually serving others in the highest way possible by becoming an embodiment of what you wish to see in the world. Let me share with you one final example to illustrate the power of this principle. A woman I knew desired to help the homeless in her community. She volunteered at shelters, donated money and resources, advocated for policy changes, all external actions, coming from a place of compassion, but also from a consciousness of otherness, of separation. Despite her efforts, she felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem and frustrated by the seeming lack of progress. I suggested a different approach. Instead of seeing the homeless as separate from herself, as others to be helped, I advised her to assume the state of consciousness where homelessness was already saw. In her imagination, she created scenes where the once homeless individuals in her community were now living in comfortable homes, engaged in meaningful work, integrated into society. She felt the joy, the relief, the satisfaction of this fulfilled state. As she persisted in this new state of consciousness, something remarkable began to happen. She found herself inspired with new ideas and approaches. She connected with individuals and organizations that shared her vision. Resources that were previously unavailable suddenly materialized. Within a year, her community had implemented innovative solutions that significantly reduced homelessness. Was this a coincidence? No. It was the law in operation. By assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, by asking from the state of fulfillment rather than from the state of lack or problem, she asked in such a way that the universe could not say no. In conclusion, I want to remind you of the core principle we've explored tonight. The universe cannot say no to you when you ask from the state of fulfillment. When you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, this is the art and the science of effective prayer. Remember, your consciousness is the only reality. What you assume, you become. What you believe, you receive. What you embody, you manifest. The external world is a shadow, a reflection of internal states. Therefore, choose wisely the state you wish to occupy. Dwell in it, live from it. Fall asleep in it, and watch as the universe rearranges itself to reflect back to you your new concept of yourself. The power is within you. It has always been within you. It is your own wonderful human imagination which is God in action. Use it deliberately. Use it lovingly. Use it wisely. When you know how to properly from the state of fulfillment rather than from the state of lack, there is no power in heaven or on earth that can say no to your request. For in truth, you are not requesting anything. You are claiming what is already yours by divine right. Go forth now with this knowledge. Apply it in your daily life. Test it. Prove it to yourself and experience the freedom, the joy, the abundance that is your birthright. Remember always, you are the operant power in your world. You are the author of your life story. You are the God of your universe. Ask from that place of power, from that place of knowing, and the universe cannot, indeed, it will not say no. I thank you for your attention tonight. Blessings upon each and every one of you. May you go forth and create deliberately, consciously, and joyfully. I have shared with you tonight the principle that transcends all religious dogmas, all philosophical systems, all cultural traditions. It is the principle of consciousness, the principle of imagination, the principle of assumption. It is the principle that Jesus taught when he said, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours." This principle has been taught by the great spiritual teachers throughout history, though often veiled in symbolism and allegory. Tonight, I have attempted to unveil it, to present it in its naked simplicity, so that you may apply it directly in your life. The great secret is this: the world is yourself pushed out. Everything that you experience is a reflection of your own consciousness. Change your consciousness, and then you change your world. This is asking in such a way that the universe cannot say no. As you leave here tonight, I encourage you to begin immediately to apply this principle. Choose a desire, something that you truly want to be, to have, or to experience. Construct a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of this desire. Enter into the scene. Make it as vivid and as real as possible. Feel the emotions that would be yours if your desire were already fulfilled. Then each night as you go to sleep, replay this scene in your imagination. Fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Do this faithfully, persistently, and you will be amazed at how quickly your external reality begins to rearrange itself to match your internal assumption. Remember, the universe responds not to your words, not to your thoughts, but to your state of consciousness, to your feeling state. When you feel that something is real, when you embody the state of its reality, the universe has no choice but to reflect back to you that reality. This is the true meaning of faith. Faith is not belief in the unknown. Faith is the feeling of the known. Faith is the feeling of possession of that which is not yet visible to the senses. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. When you operate from faith, when you live from the end, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are asking in such a way that the universe say no. I leave you with this final thought. You are divine. You are God in human form. The power that created and sustains the universe resides within you as your own wonderful human imagination. Use this power consciously. Use it lovingly. And there is nothing that you cannot be, do, or have. Go forth now and create the life of your dreams, for indeed it is your divine right and your divine responsibility to do so. Thank you, and God bless you.